Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am here to get caught up on some of my backlog of tags, because I have a few tags that I want to do, and I've been sitting on them because I've not been in the mood to film a lot of videos, and I want to get these out and done. So today, I'm going to do the Finish the Book tag. I am not sure who created this. Gareth at Book Songs and Other Magic sort of created this, resurrected this tag like a zombie from someone in the distant past who created it. He wasn't able to find the creator, but it's now making its rounds again, and it's a pretty interesting tag. And I was tagged by Micah Cummins, and this tag has 8 prompts. Number 1, do you keep a list of the books you have read? Yes, I do. I have kept a list of books that I have read since December of 1990. So I have 32 years of books that I have listed out. Now, I started this just on pencil and paper, and eventually that data migrated itself into an Access database. And I have kept that Access database going for quite a number of years. Back in the days when you had Windows, like before Windows 95. What was that? Windows NT. So I had a very old version of Access that I started this database in. So it's quite old. And I now have 3,734 records of books that I have read since December of 1990. It makes it kind of interesting because, as I said, 32 years. You can ask me a question of what book was I reading in 1995 and give me a date. And I can tell you what book I was reading. Or pick any of the year in between. I can tell you what book I was reading. And now this is going into prompt number 2. What stats do you record? Well, it's changed over the years. In the very first iteration on paper, it was just title, author, and the date that I read it. Eventually, I started adding more and more data to that. So here is what I have. I have a book ID. That's just a number going from 1 to 3,734. I then have the title, the author name. I have a genre and a subject. Genre and subject is a little bit repetitive, maybe. Genre is just a high level classification, like science fiction, or nonfiction, that sort of thing. Then subject gets into a little more detail. It's sort of like biography or philosophy. Again, there's a lot of wiggle room between genre and subject. But it's okay. I like the tiers. So you have the genre, which is a very large genre. It's like 7 of them that I keep, like fiction. I said that before, and nonfiction, and then I also do things like genre fiction, just because I do separate those out. Then I have format. That is something that escalated over the years. Originally, I didn't have that because everything was just a print book, and then I added audio books in the 90s, and in the 2000s I added digital. So you have those 3 basic formats. I also keep track of length and page. Again, that's a little bit repetitive, but not all books have page numbers. Audiobooks have a length. So in the length field, I record how long the audiobook is, like 12 hours and 9 minutes. And then in the page, I look it up on the internet and say, how many pages would that audiobook have if it had pages? For the digital format, the Kindle comes with this bizarre thing called locations, which is just their weird way of saying how far along your book is. But I put the Kindle locations, and they also put the equivalent of pages down. So that's why they have two. I have a start date and a finish date. I never used to put the start date in. I only used to record when I finished a book. But I was reading, or actually listening to an audiobook called Pursuit of Reason by Noble Cunningham about the life of Thomas Jefferson. And it mentioned that Thomas Jefferson kept a list of books, and he kept his start date and his finish date. So after that biography, I included start date. So up until about 1998, I only have books that I actually finished in my list. Afterwards, I have a start date, and some of those start dates don't have finish dates because they're a DNF. Then I have a comment. Do I make any brief comments? That field is usually blank. I have an original language field. What language was this book originally written in? A lot of them are English, but a lot of them are also translations. So I say it was originally written in German or Italian or Spanish or whatever it is. Sometimes that field can get a little confusing. Like when I read the original paperback of Solaris by Stanislaw Lem, I actually had to put it as Polish/French because that book is actually not translated from Polish. It's translated from the French, which was translated from the Polish. And then, this is getting into the next prompt. I do put a rating system. And we'll get to that in a little bit because that's its own prompt. I also have a DNF flag saying, is this book officially DNF'd? That started a little over a year ago. And then I have what page did I DNF that book on? So if it was a 500-page book and I quit on page 125, I just mark it as page 125 in that column. And then the date that I officially DNF'd the book, said, yeah, I'm done with this book. And then I also capture gender, not often, and nationality. Gender was something I used to capture, and then I stopped. And then watching a lot of people's BookTube year-end assessments, they always mention how many books by women they read, how many books by men they read. So I'm trying to reincorporate that into my database. There are a lot of blanks because I never used to record it. And to be honest, I'm just not that interested in the author's gender that often. It does not affect the way I think about the book or how it's just not something that I really want to track that much, because if I read 150 books in a year, I don't really care that only 20% of the books that I read were written by women. I sometimes captured nationality. That was for a project that I was working on, to read a book by an author from every country. I sort of let that one slide. So there are, again, lots of blanks in my database for that. And that's rather a lot of excessive information for you people, but that's what I record in my database. So now we go on to prompt number 3. Do you give star ratings? I give a numerical rating between 1 and 5. I sometimes give it points. I can do like 3.5, 3.75. I've even gone like 3.99, where that book is just on the cusp of being a 4-star book or a 4 rating, but just does not cross the finish line. So I have a lot of flexibility in that numerical field. And as a general principle, I don't like star ratings because there is no consistency. One person can have a different rating system for how they rate a book with stars. And some person would say, this book was fine, there's no major flaws, it's a 5-star book. I am much more hesitant to give a book 5 stars unless it's truly outstanding and truly special and just a standout book. Those are 5 stars. However, I can understand why some people want to give just a book with no major flaws 5 stars. You get this when you're shopping and you're at a cashier and they say, please rate me. My manager wants you to rate me. If you rate me less than a 5, it's bad. So you're getting in this point where you only have a degree of acceptable and then degrees of not acceptable on the star ratings. And I don't like that at all. So it's something I don't like to do. And I would not want to put my ratings publicly, at least not too often. Prompt number 4. Do you review your books? Not often. I should probably get a little better at reviewing books. I play around with some other websites, like Readerly or Storygraph. Readerly was interesting because they had this thing called GISs, where you're basically limited in the number of characters you can talk about a book. So it's just a very concise, to the point, what you thought about the book. It's not a full review. I actually liked that, even though I really was not impressed with Readerly as an overall app or website. But I like the concept of just short, very concise reviews. And I should do a little bit better with that, even though I probably won't. Number 5, where do you put your finished books? Back on the bookshelf. Over the years, I have unhauled books and gotten rid of books that I don't think I want to read again, but that's an imperfect science. I have gotten rid of books and then regretted getting rid of them and try to go back and rebuy them. And that paperback that I originally bought for a couple bucks is now out of print. And if I wanted to rebuy it, it's like $30. It's much better just to put the book back on my bookshelf. I am fortunate I have enough space to do that. I know some people are limited and their bookshelves are overflowing and they cannot add more bookshelves, so they have to get rid of their books. I'm not there, and I'm fortunate for that. So back on the shelf for everything that I read. Number 6, how do you pick your next book? Well, it used to be that before BookTube, I just picked the next book. Now that I'm on BookTube, I've got lots of read-alongs and reading challenges and promises, and my month is filled up with books that I have to read. So I basically have a TBR now. I don't get a lot of what I get people call mood reads to sneak into that list because it's pretty set. And a lot of that I do myself because I volunteer to join a lot of these groups, and I have a lot of different projects that I want to read. So TBR for me, not so much moods anymore. Number 7, do you have any rituals when you finish the book? No, not really. All I want to do is record that book in my database. I also use Library Thing as sort of an online version of my database. So I just have those 2 places where I record them. As I said, I've tried other apps like Storygraph and Readerly, but I'm not doing those anymore. It's just too much of an effort to record your book in more than 2 places. Prompt number 8, who do I tag? Well, I've got a number of people to tag in this. Bad is Rad 2, Bandy's Books, Big Hard Books and Classics, The Booklectic. I don't know if I've ever seen her do a tag. I hope she does tags. If she doesn't, oh well, she doesn't have to do it. I'm also going to do Book Time with Elvis and Bokens and Books. Just a lot of B people to tag in this video. I don't know why. Thank you for watching and keep on reading.